Somewhere around, sometime better, around the year 2000, a lecture is being given in New York City in a cathedral of St. John the Divine on the west side of Manhattan, a very large cathedral, and it is being given not by a priest in the cathedral or minister in the cathedral, but is being given by Ram Dass, a guru, would say an Indian guru, and about 1,500 people show up for this, and I submit, although I have no proof, that of those 1,500 people, probably somewhere around 1,000 of them were West Side Jews, come to listen to Ram Dass give a lecture. In order to understand why I suspect this to be true, we will out Ram Dass. His name was not Ram Dass originally. His name was Richard Alpert. Richard Alpert, yes, a Jewish boy from the Bronx. And a Jewish boy who made good the Jewish dream. A PhD from Harvard. He had I don't know what exactly his title was in Harvard, but he was a popular professor or teacher, instructor in Harvard, and he was working with a more famous professor whom some of you may have heard of, named Timothy Leary. Now, Timothy Leary is well known for his work in his experiments and in the end his complete faith in the value of psychedelics and particularly LSD. And Richard Alpert was his protege and if you will, his follower. Eventually, Leary was removed from Harvard or had to leave Harvard, and he headed towards California, where supposedly he stayed high until his death, and a good number of years later. Richard Alpert also left Harvard and headed to California, but kept going. As many good Jewish boys, he continued to go to India, where he became a disciple of a guru, and he changed his name to Ram Dass. And hence, we're back now in New York City and he's giving a lecture. But what is particularly telling of this lecture, and particularly telling of why it is germane to my telling the story, is that Ram Dass is going to tell a story not starting, if you will, in Harvard, or not starting in the Bronx, but starting in a moment of loss of faith in everything he had been teaching, in everything he had been doing. Ram Dass had returned to California, and he was a spiritual master, a guru of type, and he was counseling people, especially well known for counseling people who are going through crises, life-threatening crises, sickness, tragedies in life, and how does one counsel them? And so what Ram Dass is going to talk about is what he went through. And in this journey of his, in the world of, if you will, counseling, in the world of understanding tragedy, pain, suffering in life, he's going to talk about it because at some point in time around, I think it was around 1997, he was working on reviewing the initial copy of his book that was dealing with it. Ram Dass was a best-selling author in America for any number of books. And he got out of bed and suddenly he lost his ability to stand up, simply to stand up. And this wound him up a number of hours later as a seriously ill person in a hospital. He had suffered a severe stroke and he was taken to the hospital. And thus begins Ram Dass's journey to a self-awareness and an understanding of suffering and an understanding of life and its meaning and what happens to us in life and how we are supposed to understand it. Tragedies of life. And so Ram Dass is being taken in by the neurologist who is asking him the neurological questions. And he asks him the question, I presume he holds up his fingers and says, how many fingers are here? And he says 2, and so on and so forth. And I'm working off I was not in St. John's the Divine. I'm working off a lovely article on this called The Das Effect, which was published in the New York Times and is available online. It's by, the writer is Sarah Davidson. Okay, perhaps another Jew who is into all of this. But she tells the story that Ram Dass being interviewed in the intake, okay, the doctor takes his tie and says, "What's this?" And Ram Dass says, "A shmata." Everybody knew he was going to be all right. The doctor also knew he was going to be all right. It's described in the article. The doctor storms out of the room in anger. Well, he stormed out of the room in anger because he also knew what the Yiddish word shmata was, a rag. In any case. Ram Dass, and now we're going to stop for a moment and we're going to go back to a very early point in my life. I must have been about 6 years old. We lived in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, cowboys and Indians, then they were called Indians, Native Americans, Native Canadians now, riding in the street. I think about 50,000 people lived in Calgary then. And I have a very, very strong memory of Suda Shlishit in the old shul in Calgary. It was Suda Shlishit. It was in a dark room off the shul, and people were singing Mizmor LeDavid, David HaMelech, speaking about being lost with a metaphor of a sheep being lost, the shepherd who finds the sheep and then strikes the sheep and finding the sheep. And David HaMelech says, Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. Ah, would it be that tov and chesed, goodness and loving kindness, pursues me all my life. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. And now we go to the Baal Shem Tov's grandson, the Degel Machanei Ephraim, in Parshas Kisavo, asks the following question. And this is before we get to the curses the terrible tochacha in Kisavo. First, the Torah describes the brachot. Uvo kolecha kol ha brachot ha'ele v'hisigucha. All these brachot will reach you. Tzarich lachavin zeh, the Degel asks. You have to understand this. Shein lo biur, it has no clarity. We can't get it. L'chora hayaroi lo melehefech. It should say, the Torah should just say the complete opposite. That shehu, that the person, yasig et habrachot, will attain to come to the brachot. V'lo shehabrachot yasiguchu. Not that the brachot should reach him, would overtake him. However, he says, Ach inyanhu kimoshi palel David HaMelech. This is as David HaMelech himself prayed. Ach tov v'chesed yerdafuni. Would it be that tov, goodness and loving kindness, would pursue me? Again, it's pursuing me. It has to reach me. It's the same thing. Hainu, what does all this mean? It means ki lif'amim adam boreach min hatov machmat kotzer dato. Sometimes we run away. We try to escape from the good because of the paucity of our understanding. She'enu yodehu tov. We don't appreciate what's really good. We think it's bad. We're all like the child who can't understand why he or she has to go to the dentist. It's the parent torturing him or her. Right? You don't want to go. She'enu yodehu imu tov. V'lachein hitpalel David HaMelech alav hashalom. David HaMelech therefore is praying. And we should pray in the spirit of David HaMelech. Ach tov v'chesed yerdafuni. However, let tov and chesed pursue me. Shehem yerdafu acharai v'yasigu oti. That the tov and the chesed will pursue me and reach me. Af she'eni yodea li'dof achareim. Even though I am ignorant and unaware of how much I should be pursuing tov and chesed. And that is the meaning, uvo alecha kol habrachot ha'ele v'hisigucha. All these brachot should reach you, should not give up the fact that I am running away. Ach tov v'chesed yirafuni kol yamei chayai. So Richard Alpert, aka Ram Dass, is going to speak about what he learned from this whole part in his life. And of course, he's sitting in a wheelchair and he has to take long pauses as he's talking, and he speaks for a long time to these 1,500 or so people. And he tells them his story. And he says, we want grace. I don't know if he said it exactly that way, but later he was to describe it this way, and I will read, okay? Yes, apparently he did, okay? During the lecture, Ram Dass held up his left hand. He said, over here, quote, over here, I have my guru. He's compassionate and he promised he would shower me with grace. At which point Ram Dass moved his hand to the other side of his body. And here I have a stroke. He strawed his hand from side to side and said, grace, stroke. I couldn't put the two together. Then I thought, maybe the stroke is a form of grace, and I hunted for that. How could the stroke be seen as grace? And Ram Dass continued and explained that he began to look at what the stroke had done to him about as a person. And he understood. He had become humbler. He had become more compassionate. He had been forced to slow down. And he had learned what it is to be dependent as instead of being the one who helps. And I want to add, I want to add that by definition, I'm not sure that Ram Dass said this or not, but by definition, it means you can begin to really understand the people you're trying to help. It's not from the outside, it's from the inside, because you know what they are experiencing. It's not sympathy, it's empathy. Quote, the stroke was giving me lessons, advanced lessons. It brought me into my soul, and that's grace. And then Davidson has a sentence, he dropped his left hand, and then quote, fierce grace. It's grace, fierce grace. We want grace, right, on our terms. But sometimes the grace that can really tell us something is fierce grace. So, who knows? A Hasidic story. The Maggid of Zidichev was very poor. The Hasidim said to him, how is it that you can say the bracha every morning, the blessing every morning, Shasali Kartsaki, that God gives me all I need? You don't have anything. And his answer to the Hasidim was, perhaps that's what I need. Perhaps that's what I need. And why might we need to not have anything? Because perhaps what I'm supposed to be doing in life is comforting other people who don't have anything, but I can't comfort them if I don't understand them. I quote now, leading Hasidus, I quote Reb Chaim of Volozhin, who berates his son. Reb Chaim of Volozhin is dying, and he says to his son, he criticizes him. His son says this in the introduction to Nefesh HaChaim that he published. He said, my father would regularly criticize me that I don't participate in any mishtatef b'tzara de'achrina, in the pain of the other. Does that mean that Rabbi Yitzchak, his son, did not take care of other people? No, not at all. His father is saying, but you don't feel it. Mishtatef, to be a partner, to really be part and parcel of what the other person is suffering. And furthermore, he quotes his son, and he says that my father regularly criticized me, right? Sheini mishtatef. And going on, he says, my father said what a person lives, the meaning of life, is to help others in whatever way he can. But sometimes you can't really help them if you don't understand them. And so life is not simple. And sometimes what is up is not up, is down, and so forth and so forth. Okay, so to get it straight, to go to another, like we think what we're supposed to be doing in life, let's go to a basketball star, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan decided he wanted to be a baseball player. He was at the height of his basketball career, and he played in the lowest of the low leagues in America. And after a while, he called a press conference. He was a Class C or Class D baseball player, and he called a press conference. He was retiring. It was a packed press conference. Usually nobody's interested if a Class C or Class D baseball player stops playing baseball. Jordan was batting 200, a miserable average if you're a baseball player. But the reporters came, and one reporter said, Michael, what did you learn from this? And Michael said, I learned from this that we all want to be something that we can't be. Or, I will rephrase it, not that we can't be. If we are given a gift, use it. gift. And even at times, the gift can be through difficulty and pain. Jordan, that was his dream, but he was a lousy baseball player, and he understood that the talent had to go back into basketball. So you have to know something about yourself, and you have to know something about the other, and the question is, can you really speak to the other, to the pain of the other, such that you can give comfort, such that you can express not merely sympathy, but empathy, to be there with the other. And this is what we say, Ach Tov, not say it, we sing it, and we sing it with passion. Ach Tov v'chesed yirdafuni. God, you know what's good for me. The sheep is wandering, it's lost, it's running away, but the shepherd is the one that can provide it, and he knows what's good for it. It has to bring him back. So thy rod and thy staff, shivtecha mishantecha, ema yenachamuni. Even sometimes when it's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's fierce grace, but it's grace nonetheless. Grace nonetheless. Because although HaKadosh Baruch Hu seems absent in the fierceness of it, it's not so at all. This is a Torah that is an essential Torah in Ger, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not abandon us. In the Sfas Emes and Dvarim, in any number of places, Sfas Emes quotes his grandfather, the Chidush Harim, the first Ger Rebbe, that when the Am Yisrael said that the terrible things were coming upon them in the klala, in the curse, they say, Al kiein Elokai b'kirbi. It's because God is not in my midst. That would seem to be, they recognized, because they've abandoned God. No. It's a sin to say that. Nechshav la'avon. Ki tzarich adam lahamin sh'Hashem b'kerev Yisrael af shenira nistar. It is incumbent upon a Jew to recognize the presence of God, even though it seems to be that God is hiding. Right? That constant awareness, even in the darkest of nights. Ki yeshev b'choshech Hashem or li. Even when I sit in darkness, God is nonetheless my light. God is there. God is always there. It is the face of God is there. It's just that it's hidden and it's harder to find. And there are terrible, terrible hidings. Anochi hastir, I will greatly hide my face. And this happens to people in life. And the question is, what can I find of the divine? What can I find of the good? What can I take from all of this to transform it somehow into that which turns it from curse, apparent curse, into blessing? Question in life. Now, we'll end with a story. The story is a story that is told in Naphtali Lau, who changed his name to Naphtali Lavi when he had to take Ben Gurion required to, but his name was Lau, and he was the older brother of Rav Lau, the chief rabbi. In fact, he saved his brother through the concentration camps, and they came to Eretz Yisrael in I think around 1948, when they finally came to Eretz Yisrael, or maybe earlier. They went for Shabbos to visit the Imre Yemes, the Gerer Rebbe, the son of the Sfas Emes. I'm sorry, son of the Sfas Emes. And his son, Rabbi Yisrael Alter, that was the family name of the Ger Rebbe's, took Naphtali for a walk on Sunday morning. Okay? They went for a walk. I picture it as they were walking on Rehov Yafo in 1948, early in a Sunday morning. And now I'm going to read in translation, roughly read in translation. While they're walking, so suddenly the Rebbe, the Rabbi Shrer, okay, is pulling on the sleeve of Naphtali's sleeve, and he says out of nowhere, okay, did you see it? Did you see? In English it doesn't. In Hebrew, item oto. Did you see it? Okay. Naphtali didn't understand. He didn't understand what he's asking. Who? In Hebrew, Naphtali, ita oto could be who or it could be him. So the future Rebbe says, did you see the smoke going up from the chimneys? He is greatly moved by this question. He says, yes, but the Israel, the future Rebbe doesn't let up. Did you see the fire? He says, yes. Okay, they walk on further. They get to the corner. Okay, once again he pulls on his shirt and says, "Did you sure you saw the chimneys?" Again, yes. But he didn't want to leave. As he goes on, he says, "Did you see the smoke going up from the chimneys? Did the smoke go up? Did it burn? Or did you just see a building with a chimney?" At which point he answers, "Yes, I saw the smoke. I also saw what they put into the crematoria such that smoke would go up." At which point Rabbi Yisrael puts his hand on Naphtali's shoulder and in Yiddish continues and asks, "Did you see HaKadosh Baruch Hu there? Did you see Oto becomes not just it, him? Was God there? Did you see God there in all this suffering?" When I was a little bit younger than I am now, a long time ago, I had an opportunity. I had written a review of Elie Wiesel's first 4 books. The trilogy starts with Night. I've been introduced to this by a certain person named Yossi Blau, Rabbi Yosef Blau, my brother-in-law. Many years passed until all this happened. But I read all of, and I wrote a pretty long review and a pretty well-written review in one of the YU newspapers, and somehow it came to Elie Wiesel's attention, and in any case, I had a contact. Anyway, I was able to get a chance to talk with him for an hour. Elie Wiesel had a sister who lived in Montreal, where we lived at the time, and he agreed to meet with me, and we talked for an hour. During that conversation, I asked him about that passage in Night, in which 2 young boys are being hung, but they are so light, as it were, that it took a long time for them to die. on the gallows. And Wiesel in the passage in Night says, God is there. God is there. And I asked, and the people, of course, in those days were talking, the popular thing for people to talk about was the death of God. I said, were you talking about the death of God? Is that what you meant? And Wiesel said, no, he was very, very upset with the, of course everybody understood it that way, but he was very upset with it. And he tried, I don't remember that he explained other than anything else beyond the no. I just don't remember. Could be he did. But many years later, I came to this Sasemis, and Wiesel was, of course, a Hasidic Jew at root, and maybe it's the Torah of because it couldn't be happening, and nothing could be happening unless God was there. Things we don't understand. If you say, but how we understand it? I go back. Anochi hastir astir panai. I don't understand it because God is hiding from us. There are those terrible moments. And now, in these terrible moments that I record this in Yerushalayim, I look out on the street, and it's sunny, the light, very light. Building is being built across the street. Things are happening, and not far away, other things are happening, and have happened. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless us all with understanding in some way. And we should all be able to sing Ach tov v'chesed yirafuni kol yamei chayai v'shavti b'veis Hashem orech yamim.